and shit like that. Oh man, what fun. This has exceeded my expectations.
So, we are live. Hello, and welcome to D. Thomas Fine Miniatures. How is everybody doing out there? I'm Darren, and you are all joining us. Thank you so much. Live here from the historic Hudson Valley in New York. We're in the picturesque village of Hastings on Hudson, and we are amazingly excited about our newest artist installation by the talented Michael Yurkovic, who is an extremely talented miniaturist, and we are very fortunate to have his work represented in our gallery starting today with an open house celebration tomorrow. So for those of you who are in the area, we invite you to join us tomorrow on Sunday, March 6th for an open house celebration from 3 to 5 p.m. So please do join us. But in the meantime, welcome and say hello to Michael Yurkovic from Chicago, who is who is here with us in the gallery, and we have actually just finished setting up for the installation, and so happy that Michael's here to take us through his process, to take us through some of his beautiful, beautiful work, and talk about some of his tips and techniques. So, hey Michael, how are you?
I'm doing great, Darren. I'm so glad to be here in Hastings on Hudson. I just drove in yesterday, folks, and this town, Manhattan's right there, okay? And it's beautiful, the area is gorgeous, and Darren's got a great spot here. So I encourage you to stop in and take a look around. It's really wonderful. This is a converted movie theater. So so long ago, back in the old days, they did show movies. This was the room where the screen was. So consequently, there's nice high ceilings here. Darren's got plenty of display cases, a lot of product in here, a lot of good work by miniature artisans from all over the world. So I would encourage you to, if you're in the area, if you're traveling to New York, it's 15 minutes by train from Midtown Manhattan, okay? So you got no excuses.
So thank you so much for that. But let's get to really the beautiful, beautiful work that's on display now for this exhibition.
So it's all about me.
Yes,
now.
please.
Okay. Okay. As Darren said, my name is Michael Yurkovic. I do miniatures. I was formerly trained as an industrial designer. I work out of Chicago, but I had a wonderful drive out here over the last couple days to come visit Darren and see his space for the first time, and to bring up some of my miniatures.
So tell us about some of these beautiful, beautiful pieces.
Well, these pieces are inspired by, and are really replicating, works that were done by some of the famous industrial designers of the 30s, 40s, and 50s in America. Names like Charles and Ray Eames, Eero Saarinen, George Nelson. They were just rediscovering, or actually discovering for the first time, a lot of new materials and processes that were born out of the Second World War. So we learned about fiberglass, we learned about new molding techniques, we learned about molding plywood. For example, Charles Eames, who does the ubiquitous Eames chairs, the rocker, and he did this molded plywood screen, which, as you can see, it's made up of repeating segments of the same wooden pattern.
Yeah, bring it under the light a little bit.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh, that's a good shot.
There we go.
Yep.
And it's beautiful from the edge. It has a flexible living hinge, just like the real screen. It's all molded plywood. Okay, so I mold the plywood myself, sandwich the fabric in between to make the living hinge, just like the real thing. In World War II, Charles Eames, during the war, made molded plywood leg splints, and they were everywhere in Europe, helping the GIs who had broken or injured legs.
Tell us about some of these marvelous chairs that you do.
Well, there's a variety here. One of my favorites is Charles Eames. I think so many of us grew up in school sitting on this chair or one like it, one of those shell chairs, you know, and they still are they're still out there in the laundromats around the world. They've survived forever, and they're resurfacing now as popular people are rediscovering the period. But Eames did quite a few variations with fiberglass shells, and then he put different kinds of bases on them. This, for example, is a rocker where we have the same fiberglass shell, but he changed the base there, and it was just by happenstance that at the factory where they make the furniture, there was a woman there who was pregnant who worked on the assembly line and was asking about a rocker version of the Eames chair. So he said, well, why don't we, so they designed one up. It got so popular and was so comfortable that they went into production with it.
That's fabulous.
And so now, if we walk over here, we can see that here's the real thing. This is an early Eames shell chair rocker, and here it is in miniature. So this piece is 1/12 the size of this one. So as a miniaturist, that presents quite a few challenges. You know, we're looking at this chair now, and you look at the real thing, and you can see how paper thin the shell of the chair is. And how do we duplicate that in miniature? How do we do something 12 times thinner than that and 12 times smaller to make a convincing, accurate, true, faithful replica? So I employ different processes. The shell for this chair is actually vacuum formed. And so I take a piece of plastic, flat, I heat it up, and then, I take that piece of plastic and put it over a form, and then I've got a vacuum cleaner in the bottom. And I hit the vacuum on, it sucks the plastic over the mold and creates that shape. Then I go ahead and I cut that out, and that forms the shell of the chair. Then I take brass wire and I have some jigs and things that I use to accurately reproduce that shape, but I make the wireframe just like the real one.
It's great.
And then I use maple and carve the legs for the runners, because it's got kind of that sleigh look, you know? It's a very quaint little piece.
So what are some of the things that folks who might collect or folks that might purchase some of your pieces, what would they end up doing with these?
Well, I think whether or not you yourself live with mid-century modern furniture, you really don't have to. If you appreciate the aesthetic, then perhaps you could start to collect some of the classic pieces from the era and create your own little environments to get in touch with it, to live with it, but in a different way, and to appreciate it.
Sounds great.
You know,
that's
so
wonderful.
It's just another reason to collect miniatures. We all have different reasons that drive us, but you know, I was driven by the passion for this era. So now that I've created more pieces, these room vignettes start to happen, and you start to get them in context. You know, and then I make these little figures, which again sort of add to the feeling of the era, because a lot of people look at my work and they go, "Oh yeah, Mad Men," okay? Copyright, Circle C. But you know, and this guy too, you know, it's like, yeah, it's got that feel and it's got that vibe from that era, you know, and then introducing other elements like some work of Andy Warhol from the era, you know, one of his pieces there, or Miro, or some of the other. You can start to build this environment that really captures the spirit of the era.
So we actually have a question from one of the followers of this broadcast, wondering if you do custom work.
I certainly do, because there are so many designs out there. I have to pick a few to do, okay? But everybody has their favorites, and I have people coming up to me at shows and saying, "Are you aware of this piece by this designer? I would love to have this." And so yes, I feel equipped from the technical and artisan standpoint to tackle just about anything, okay?
That's great.
So I feel that freedom. There's a tremendous freedom there, but then there's a tremendous piece of hell too, where you have to decide, okay, I can do anything.
Right.
What am I going to do? So it's the good news and the bad news. But to answer your question directly, yes, I do commissions, and I do some of my own custom work. Like, for example, this sofa here. This is a piece that I designed. and just penciled it out one day. I had this vision for these floating leaves on the edges of the upholstered couch, and then I went and made it, which was so exciting.
That's great.
And in a couple days, I was holding it in my hand.
We have a comment. Fab, fab, fab. Thank you, Crawford.
Okay. Just 3 fabs?
Are there any other questions online from Michael while we have him here? Let us know. Just type the questions in. But I actually have a question. What's next for you? Where are you next? Where can we find you next?
Oh, well, I do shows across the country, and it's one of the major ways that I make money, imagine that, and get my work out in front of the public. Because I find that, and I think Darren would agree, in the world of miniatures, people like to see it in person.
Yeah.
It's one thing to see pictures of it, but when you really, like some people were in earlier today, and they saw the full-size rocker, and then they saw the miniature,
Yep.
and they got it. They're like, wow.
They get it.
And then they want to have it too, which is great.
Yeah.
But either way, seeing it in person is so important to most of our clientele, I would say. So that's why I do the shows. I travel around the country. This year I'll be in Chicago in April.
Mm-hmm.
That's the next big show. Mm-hmm. And if you don't go to any other miniature show in the world, mm-hmm. come to Chicago in April. It's like the 13th, 14th, 15th, around there. Mid-April, it's the Chicago International Show put on by the promoters, Tom Bishop.
And where can we find you? You have a website?
I do. You can go to atomicminiature.com.
Perfect.
And you'll see more samples of my work there.
Yep.
I don't just do furniture. I do some work in the automotive miniatures. Yeah. And some of my latest body of work, which you can see on Facebook, or Instagram. If you will go to Michael Yurkovic on Facebook, or Atomic Miniature on Facebook, or if you go on Instagram to Atomic Miniature, you'll see other samples of my most recent pieces. And some of the newest work is involving patina and rust and decay that is so mid-century modern, okay? But it's a part of my artistic insides that I gotta get out. So I'm developing some little dioramas right now, a couple pieces in partnership with Beth Freeman Kane. So if you don't know her, Google her. You'll see an incredible assortment of her work on Google Images. That's Beth Freeman Kane. She's from South Africa, and she does incredible wildlife artistry.
Excellent.
So I sculpted a park bench. She's putting pigeons on it.
That's great.
And it's actually going to be a political piece regarding Wall Street. Okay. We'll be debuting that in April. I'm also working on a little diorama piece of a rusted out old vintage Vespa scooter. It's
great.
Lovely. It's been loved to death, and it's sitting in a field, rusting. And Beth is going to, the theme of the piece, the theme of all these pieces really is to show the cycle of how man is long gone from the scene. The artifacts of his existence there are left, but nature is reclaiming the territory.
Well, we do have one comment saying, I must see that. So that's really good news.
Awesome.
And of course, again, you guys, we have an open house happening tomorrow right here in Hastings-on-Hudson. So we do invite you to join us here if you are local, or if you want to meet Michael. We're so excited to have him here. We want to thank him for being here. We're excited about the new presentation. We hope you guys enjoyed this special live very first broadcast from D. Thomas Fine Miniatures. Check us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and definitely come in and visit.
Awesome. Fucking phone.
Oh, it's your phone? I thought that was my phone.
Maybe it is your phone.
I thought that was my
No,
headset.
it's my phone for the freaking parking meter. There it is.
There it is. All right.
Oh, God.
Go feed it before. That's all right.
I'm glad we did it.